Hello, my name is Abel Abelson. I'm the writer of How to Handle Neurotypicals and a few other books. See the links in the description. And today I'd like to talk about why people are so indifferent. It's a sensation we have a lot of times that people are really very indifferent. We may have some suffering. We may even have some great ideas. We have something we want to show or share or are concerned with, and nobody seems to care. People are indifferent. Now, the first thing I'd like to say about that is that we are all, to a certain degree, indifferent. And I noticed this in a few very day-to-day examples recently. When, for instance, I was scrolling through a Spotify playlist, and I was clicking on a piece of music and listening to the first few seconds and saying to myself, it's no good, next. So I went to the next, I clicked on it, I listened to a few seconds, and I said, no, it's not very good, next. And then suddenly I kind of placed myself in the shoes of the person or the people that made that music. Now, just to make music well enough so you can put it on Spotify and someone can click on it and listen a few seconds is a lot of work already, only making it. And honestly, when I listened to this music that I said, it's not good enough, actually it was quite good. I mean, it was not my taste, maybe, and it was not what I wanted to listen to at that moment, but it's not as if they really did a bad job, the people that made the music. They went to great lengths to make something, and in a few seconds I just dismissed it, which from their point of view must be extremely indifferent. A lot of music is also something that people really invest themselves into emotionally and practically, etc. And just dismissing it in a few seconds is actually really indifferent. Now, at the same time, I don't feel at all guilty or bad or something because I just clicked through it and in a few seconds dismissed it. Simply because there's so much in the universe that you can't be anything else than basically, intrinsically, fundamentally indifferent. You have to be indifferent to almost everything. If you look at it from an absolute standpoint, there are millions of phenomena, if you want to see it like that, and you must be indifferent to 99.99 and a lot of nines after that percent of all those phenomena, because you're an organism trying to survive, trying to do stuff, and most of everything else that's going on is just not relevant or not fit for you in that moment, etc., etc. The net effect is indifference. So this is the first realization I think that's important when we have this sensation that the world is really indifferent to us or to a suffering or an idea or whatever is going on in us. It's normal. Actually, it's really very normal. And we are, I would almost say, equally indifferent. But I'll get back to that later because there are different. Now, this being said, the next very important point to this indifference is that there are definitely individual differences between how indifferent a person is. And here we come back to what I many times come back to, is neurodivergence. So brains differ. They really do differ between individuals. And there are, without a doubt, innate differences in how occupied or preoccupied or empathetic or all these kind of terms that come together around this same concept in how different these are between individuals. And there I think there's something really important to realize also, that when you take the 0.00001% of the phenomenon we are all concerned with, each one his own 0.00 etc. percent, it's true that some people can really have in front of them somebody terribly suffering, and it just doesn't have an effect on them. And again, it's not a judgment that I'm making here, it's an observation. And once you make this observation and you really acknowledge it and you integrate it, then you don't even need to pass on to a judgment, because it becomes a practical issue. Some people simply, when they are confronted by their senses with a terrible suffering, it just doesn't have an effect. It's not their fault. It's neither good nor bad. It's a fact. It doesn't have an effect. And so we call those people indifferent. And it's true they are more indifferent than someone who, when confronted with a terrible suffering, suffers also. There is this difference. And it is important to realize this. Why? Because we can stop expecting things that are simply not of this world. These kind of people that do not have, or that have very little reaction to, for instance, suffering that happens in front of them, the problem we have with them is not that they are like that. Not really. That's not the big problem. The big problem we have with them is that we expect them not to be like they are, which is of course daft. They are like they are, and expecting them to be different at the same moment as being themselves, it's really absurd. It's like expecting a giraffe to be an elephant. Won't happen. So we expect them to be concerned, moved. It doesn't happen. We are very disappointed and hurt, and we externalize this hurt towards them, telling them or telling other people about them they are indifferent in a kind of almost aggressive emotion. They shouldn't be indifferent and they are indifferent, and I'm suffering and they don't notice, etc. The root of all this, if you want, is our faulty expectation. That's the root of it all. The root is not that they are the way they are. The root of the problem is our faulty expectation. A completely absurd expectation that probably starting from the point that everyone is like us. Well, they're not. And that's neurodivergence, which is, like most things, a gigantic boon, a miracle. That's fabulous. And at the same time, it's shit. It's always those two at the same time. And the art of it all is to manage this reality in a way that the shit doesn't manifest and the miracle does. So in my book, How to Handle Neurotypicals, I delve a bit more into the detail of what I think is at the basis of these differences in indifference and preoccupation and stuff like that. Some people have a mental horizon that's much faster than other people, which means that if something passes, if something goes on, some people will have it included in their horizon and they will react to it naturally because it's part of their world. They can see it, if you want, mentally. It happens in their mental world. Other people have a much more reduced mental horizon, which again isn't better or worse. It's just different. And the trick of it all is to acknowledge it and integrate it. They have a much more reduced mental world. And this same something that happens simply falls outside of their sphere, outside of their mental sphere. And it simply doesn't affect them. It doesn't have any effect on them. And this is one of the many things that one has to integrate when handling neurotypicals and the world. So if you're interested in these kind of things, have a look at the book. The link is in the description. And I'd like to pass on to the third point here, and that is that the indifference of other people is actually a fabulous gift, if you want. If you want to see it like that, it's a fabulous gift of the universe. Wow, thank you, universe, for the indifference of the other people. Why am I saying this? Wouldn't it be better that people would be so concerned and empathetic always, and always there ready to see what's going on with you and react to it and stuff like that? No, it wouldn't. I'm convinced now that it wouldn't, because it would be a terrible pain in the butt. It would be terrible. They'd be on your back all the time, trying to, in a certain sense, with the best intentions, but pushing you in directions. As it is now, with all these people that are indifferent, I can actually simply choose whatever I want to choose at whatever moment, almost. The only thing I have to consider is not to actively enter in their world and cause a problem in their world actively. Not just passively, but actively enter there and cause problems. Because I also tend to do that. I tend to be on people's backs with all my preoccupations and concerns and stuff. Something I have to learn not to do too much. But if I'm not doing that, they're actually like whatever rocks your boat. So I could be in my house and I can shave my hair and I can learn whatever stuff I want to learn, and I can think what I want to think, and I can make videos, I can write books, I can publish them, I can make comments or not make comments, I can dress more or less the way I want. I say more or less because when you actively start to cause problems with them, then they're not indifferent anymore. But the thing is, and you'll acknowledge this probably, their scope of indifference is really vast. Actually, they really don't care a lot. And what I'm trying to say here is that this gives a tremendous freedom. A tremendous freedom, actually. They don't care whether you're a dentist or an artist or a writer or an engineer. They actually don't give a hoot. So you're free. You're free to be either a dentist or an engineer, or change from engineer to dentist. They don't care. Yes, whatever. If that's what makes you happy, I was going to say it's not even that. They don't care if it makes you happy or not. They just care about if it causes a problem for them. Which seems, in a certain sense, really harsh and egotistic. But in another sense, if you look at it, it actually gives this gigantic freedom to be almost perfectly who you really are, or who you really feel you should be, within certain limits of not really causing them problems. And there's a lot of debate you can do about that, and you may do it in the comments, and I'll join in probably. But I'd like to point to this fabulous characteristic of other people's indifference, that it gives you a gigantic space of freedom, a really vast space of freedom. And let's consider this also. So the next time we're like, oh, people are so fucking indifferent and so, well, it has really huge advantages also. Check out the books, see the links in the description. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments, and thank you for watching. Also, a gigantic thank you to all those fabulous, nice people that put likes and share the videos and stuff like that. You're really wonderful. And see you in the next video. Bye.